Yo, what's up, folks? Welcome to an episode of Neptune Sunday. It's your boy V Moss riding solo today. Episode 60 is kind of like a big deal. I'm so thankful that we made it this far. Got a specific topic we're going to get into, but just to give a couple updates on some things that have been happening over the past couple of days. I'm fresh off a trip from Art Basel in Miami. Last minute decision to go down there just to check everything out. I've always heard great things about just the energy and the excitement of what's going on during Art Basel week. Luckily, I have some family that lives in the Miami area, so I don't have to worry about hotel. Just got to get there, which is great. Want to shout out Mimi and the rest of the BBC ice cream team and the staff at the BBC ice cream store down in Wynwood in Miami for showing love this weekend. My wife and I attended a launch party for a collab that they did with an artist named Jay Tips that's from New York. Definitely check him out. Check out his stuff. Like, he's done a couple sneaker collabs with Saucony that looked like really cool, came out really dope. One of those was recently launched and was on display at BBC. So definitely check him out. Got one of his t-shirts for my wife. I probably will end up wearing it more than her, like if she gets to wear it at all, but definitely want to make sure that she got some love. I copped this hoodie while we were there for myself. It's from the Yankees New Era collab with BBC. Apologies to my Yankee fans that are watching and listening. I know you guys are a little upset with the Juan Soto news, but sorry to rub that in. We were at Art Basel. Meanwhile, Pharrell is out doing Pharrell stuff. This weekend, he actually performed at the grand reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris that was damaged really badly by fire about 5 years ago. So had Voices of Fire out there performing with him, which was crazy. Really dope to see how active he is in the community and the culture of Paris and how they kind of embraced him. He had an interview with Rick Rubin that came out this week as well, where he basically kind of suggested like that's their primary residence, like the kids are in school there. So dope to see Pharrell continuing to do great stuff that's making kids like us from Virginia proud, like doing things at the highest level that we could never imagine. So as usual, shout out to P, just for being great. P said you can do it too, and boy did I believe him, my guy. So shout out to Tyler. So here, why are we here? So episode 60, I said it's kind of like a big deal because we're here to talk about 15 years since the Clipse dropped their third album, Til the Casket Drops. So the third album, the third in the trilogy, really don't consider exclusive audio footage like part of the trilogy since it didn't come out. So like this is the third album in the trilogy, their final album as the Clipse. For me, that's back in 2009. Like, I was in my year in between undergrad and grad school, but, the singles were all very high energy, made you feel like, kind of like A Big Deal and I'm Good were a big deal for us, me and my crew back in the summer riding around in Richmond. And then once the album actually came out, it was dope. I had an internship at an agency in Northern Virginia, and like I was at my desk listening to that album. So good memories for that album. We're going to talk a little bit more about it, talk about some of the songs specifically. This is, probably got the most polarizing songs or vibes from the trilogy, but let's just get into it. So, like I said, this is the last of the trilogy. A very important follow-up to Hell Hath No Fury, which didn't have a ton of commercial success, but like is viewed as a classic. Like, Hell Hath No Fury has some of the best rap records of that era on it. It's also important that this is the third label for the third album. So like label drama has been a theme in the Clipse career, and that's something that Pusha always talks about. So like they were on their third different label for this third different album. This is their first album that's not entirely produced by Pharrell and Chad. So Neptunes did 8 of the 13 songs. Sean C and LV, who you might know from being part of Diddy's Hitman group, who also like they did a huge chunk of the songs on Jay-Z's American Gangster. They did 2 songs on the album, and then DJ Khalil did 3 songs on the album as well. So there's some misses, reaching for hits. We'll get into that later. But I think those misses and the reaches on this album are reason why Pusha told Elliott Wilson a few years ago that he hates this album. So again, usually most artists are critical of their art, but like from a fan perspective, I don't hate this album. Like I'm a Clipse fan. I can acknowledge that these songs aren't all the best songs ever, but I still enjoy them. So we're gonna go song by song real quick. Starting off with Freedom. At the time, it was a little weird for me as being a big Clipse fan and being a big Neptunes fan to have an album from the Clipse not start off with a Neptunes beat. But shout out to Sean C and LV. The beat for Freedom is dope. You know, we're getting the vibes from the beginning with this song that things are different. Things are going in a different direction. Pusha is still bragging, but you know, he takes a cue from his brother to reference some of the remorse they feel from the dark side of not just the rap game, but the game of being in the streets as well. You know, Pusha admits that he understands and feels the same way of his brother, but he's still trying to get this money. In an interview with MTV News, Pusha said it's a redemption song. He added, it's an apology. It gives a rhyme and reason for some of the things and some of the attitudes of the Clipse. It says sorry just as much as it says we're better than other rappers and we're still the best ever. So following up with Freedom, a classic, a favorite from people who love the Clipse and love the Neptunes, Popular Demand. You go from Freedom, a redemption song, and then get into back to the shit talking. Pusha is doing his usual, and then Malice is telling us to repent. So it's like I said, from the beginning of this album, you get the vibes that things are going in a different direction. And with both of those guys, specifically Malice. Cameron, pleasant surprise as a feature at the time. The features on the Clipse album were pretty limited for the most part. I mean, they mostly stuck to Star Trek family people or, you know, other people that they really respected in the game. But in an interview with Complex, Pusha says, I told Pharrell I really want to do a record with Cam, and I said I really want to be on Hot 97. When I come to New York, I want to hear it. I want DJ Enough to play this record. I want Flex to play this record. I want a record with Cameron, and I want to be a part of a Hot 97 fiasco. And I was like, I want to feel like New York City. Definitely works. I think Cameron did exactly what we expect Cameron to do. And I think that's one of our favorite features of all of the Clipse features and all of the albums that have come out so far. Next up, kind of like a big deal, one of the singles. The title is obviously a nod to Will Ferrell's Ron Burgundy character on Anchorman. You know, Kanye's talked about how much of a Will Ferrell fan he is. You know, he also sampled Will Ferrell and the guy from Napoleon Dynamite who were on that Blades of Glory movie, and that's the sample. Will Ferrell's a sample that when you hear in Niggas in Paris, the song from Watch the Throne. And Kanye also has a random cameo in Anchorman too, for those of you who might not have seen that as well. But the title is fitting because this was a big deal. Like, having the Clipse connect with Kanye was a very big deal for rap nerds, especially us from Virginia. Like, as much as we love the Clipse working with the Neptunes, like we think of that as family, right? So the more they collaborated and got support and love from other big names in hip hop, that was a big deal that even more kind of like cemented their talent and was being recognized for us in a sense of pride. Like, okay, cool. Like, they're gonna get great beats and get support from P and Chad, but like, okay, cool. Like Kanye, like, and then it would be Swizzy and then, you know, others. So that was a big deal for us. I gotta also mention that, like, the song itself is dope. Yay, Pusha, Malice, kill it. But if those of you who caught, there's a remix and Bun B has a really crazy verse with a timestamp on it for the time of 2009. He says, catch you slipping right behind you, catch you making bacon and lay you down like the swine flu, which is, if you remember in 2009 area, like that time, like the swine flu was crazy. I remember I had to get a vaccine in grad school for bird flu or swine flu or something, but like I just remember that line, and that was definitely, because of the timing, a scrunch your face up line when we heard that on Bun B's remix to kind of like a big deal. Next song is Showing Out. It's okay, right? I think the Yo Gotti feature is kind of, it felt random. Like I said, the features that they have had up to this point were very specific and intentional, but the beat is cool. I did read an article that said that it sounded like Pharrell and Chad were trying to do a version of Swizzy's Swing Your Rag beat that he made for T.I., which came out a little bit, probably around a year or so before this album came out, or the time when they were recording it. So you get a similar vibe from it. Again, it's not one of my favorites, but not a bad song. Transition into I'm Good, another single. I think this is arguably, you can say this is the best song on the album. It depends on who you are and what your taste is, but this was an anthem for us that summer. It gave us that feeling that we were good when we were not good. Like, graduating in 2008, undergrad, job market was trash. People were trying to find jobs. I hadn't gotten settled in like a full-time career job yet. I had like 3 jobs. Like, I had 2 jobs and an internship or something like that. So, just the idea of this song, you can find me in the streets, even in a drought. I was definitely in a drought. I had no money, lived in my mom's house, but I was definitely still in the streets. So that's why me and my friends specifically have such an affinity for I'm Good. Say what you want about it, like as a song or as it fits in this album, that's always going to be a classic and have a special place for us. Next song, There's Been a Murder. I think it's a cool song. I think they did a good job of like sprinkling the Caribbean influence in both the hook and the verses. This song was produced by, I don't want to mess his name up, Chin and Jetty and DJ Khalil. But I think this is another good song, just kind of like some storytelling, but Pusha and Malice just kind of rapping some of their, what we know to get those dark, ominous bars from them on this song. Next up, huge record. Highlight of the album for me, Doorman. Just the way it starts, just the way it comes in, hits you in the face. Part of this song, an important part of the story of leading up to this album is, right before it came out is when their former manager, Anthony Gonzalez, was arrested on firearm and drug charges. Pusha raps in the song, if the good die young, then the greats go to jail. I miss my Tony. Oh, if you snitches burn in hell, right? Like, Malice told MTV News around the time, it's everything you want to see, how life is at home for us, getting money, the hood, and your homies. We lost a lot of family. So when I say family, I mean people that were down with us, people near and dear to our hearts, entourage, people who helped build this whole Clipse thing. We've been through a lot, but we're still celebrating, remembering how everything was, how it was supposed to be. So, Doorman, I think Doorman is slept on, but to me, it's the biggest record on the album. I love Doorman. All right, next up is Never Will It Stop. This one produced by Sean C and LV as well. I think it's a cool song. It's just like kind of an exhibition of rap, like just how good Malice and Pusha are at rapping, but also features my man Ab Laba, VA to PA. Is there an Ab Laba verse that we've heard in any of these collaborations with the Clipse, individually or collectively, that has been whack? I'm gonna say no. Like, we talked about on this show, my affinity and my appreciation for Philly, living there for a few years. But even before living there, Ab Laba to me is always ready for the challenge. Like, his verses on the Re-Up Game mixtapes, everything he's been on in the albums, he's always killed it. So shout out to Ab Laba. So here's probably the part of the album that people just really don't like. Back to Back, All Eyes on Me, and Counseling. Most would consider these back-to-back misses. I see what Pharrell was doing. The beats have a bop that's like, it seems like it's kind of inspired by kind of 80s, 90s in the club rapping like R&B features type, but it just didn't work for the Clipse. Like, maybe it would have worked better for someone else that they work with a lot, like someone like LL Cool J. I feel like that's like another person, or maybe Ludacris or Nelly, maybe. But I think those two records and the sound of those two records and the structure of those two records didn't necessarily fit the Clipse as well as it could have fit some other artists, as well as the fact that I don't think it really fit this album. If you've seen Pharrell's Lego movie Piece by Piece, All Eyes on Me featuring Carrie Hilson is one of the songs that is the song that Push is talking about that he really hated. It's basically like he's in therapy talking about how much he hates All Eyes on Me. But in 2009, you still had to have the club record. Pharrell understood that. Carrie Hilson was on fire at the time. So the formula was there. Like, it just didn't work. And I think it just didn't work for the Clipse. It didn't work with this album. I actually don't mind Counseling. I think it's got, a good, it's okay. And I always liked when Pusha raps, I'm about my cash money, ma, maybe it's baby. Like, just, if you know, you know. Just, it's not a jab, but it's just like to have Cash Money and Baby be referenced at any time by the Clipse is always going to have people perk up and be like, oh, what did he say? But I always thought that was a good play on the words. All right, last 3 songs of the album try to give us kind of an uplifting conclusion to the album. Champion, beat of it is really low key, but it's a great song full of affirmations, and I really enjoy that. I think Footsteps is another good song. The hook of it, trying to get up out the ghetto, come follow in my footsteps. I think that's really important to the song, and Malice and Pusha both do a good job of kind of giving games and kind of showing, talking about how they've tried to show and be an example of how to navigate this space, how to navigate the streets, how to navigate the rap game. But then my favorite of these 3 is definitely Life Change. I think Pharrell, this is probably one of my favorite Neptunes beat on this album. There's some question of like this idea of maybe the thing that they saw that made their life change was the fact that Tony got arrested, right? So Kenna, another Star Trek family member, is on the hook for this with Pharrell. This was definitely like, as the last song on the album, the final transformation into No Malice, right? You start in the verse, I was wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked, which he is taken from a Bible verse, Revelations 3:17. He would later use those words, that line, as the title of his book that he released in 2011. And in the verse, in one of his verses, he's also like referencing, issues with family and like the Lord's. He's found his way due to the Lord's GPS. So like, if there was ever any question from top to bottom, this is sprinkled out through this album. Like, Malice is in a different space, and this is it. And it definitely is cemented by his verses on the last song, Life Change. So for me, if you ask me what my favorite song on the album is, I think, like I said, I really like Doorman, but I'm Good has like special meaning. So I'm going to say I'm Good. For those of you who have been listening for a while and paying attention, we actually did a Clipse bracket back on episode 20 something. I don't know. It's season 2. So wanted to make sure, like, out of 16 songs, even though people consider this basically the worst of the 3 Clipse albums, 4 of the songs from this album made the bracket of 16. So I'm Good was ranked number 4. Kind of Like a Big Deal was ranked number 5. Doorman was ranked number 8, and Popular Demand was ranked number 10. So I think even though this album as a whole is not people's favorites, I think the fact that those songs specifically like still resonated with people, I think shows, we had this idea that we introduced back in our episode with Corey Towns, this idea of high mid, like your favorite artists that are going to deliver, sometimes they miss, but like their miss is not as bad as people's misses who are like not your favorite artists, who are not as good. So I think this is definitely, those 4 songs in particular and some other favorites and some other highlights of the album. It's definitely high mid from the Clipse. We posted about the anniversary of this album yesterday on Instagram and had a poll and to ask people what their favorite Neptune song on the album was, and I'm Good is what won. So like I said, I'm Good has got special meaning for me, but also seems like it resonated with a lot of people too. So in 2009, the Clipse are done. But I think the positive is that we knew that was going to be the final Clipse album, but they announced that they were going solo. So it's not like we're never going to hear from Pusha and Malice rapping again. We're just not going to get a Clipse album. So that was the one positive, even though we knew this was the end of the Clipse for the time being. After that album came out, Malice wrote the book that I mentioned earlier, Wretched, Pitiful, Poor, Blind, and Naked. Crazy enough, me and my guy Justin Tinsley, shout out to Tins, your favorite writer from ESPN, we actually met Malice and talked to him about the book. He was promoting it at A3C Music Festival in Atlanta back in 2011. And we just happened to cross paths with him. And, you know, obviously it was dope to see him and show love and say, hey, we're from Virginia. Good to see you, bro, which was dope. That also was the same trip that me and Justin got a tour of Stankonia, which I don't know if that story has been talked about on this podcast, but maybe one day I'll tell that. Eventually Malice changed his name to No Malice and released 2 albums with kind of obviously Christian rap vibes that he was alluding to on this album, on this Til the Casket Drop album. Hear Ye Him officially released in 2013, and then Let the Dead Bury the Dead released in 2017. So then his brother, his solo career skyrocketed after he joined forces with Kanye, signed to Good Music. He was featured on all the Good Friday, well, not all of them, featured on some of the Good Friday tracks that led up to the release of, ultimately the release of Kanye's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which a lot of people considered Kanye's best album. After Pusha released mixtapes Fear God 1 and 2 and Wrath of Cain, we eventually got Pusha's solo debut, My Name Is My Name, in 2013. He followed that up with King Push, Darkest Before Dawn, The Prelude in 2015, and then critically acclaimed Daytona in 2018, which we all know there was some other stuff that happened around Daytona, but we're not getting into that. One of the best hip-hop albums, period. High quality raps, high quality production from Kanye. But in 2019 is when we started to get the rumblings and get our hopes up that the Clipse might get back together. They made an appearance as the Clipse on Kanye's track Use This Gospel from Kanye's Jesus is King album. In 2022, things got real. The brothers were back together on the song Punch Bowl from the I Know Nego project, and then on the song I Pray For You, which was on Push's Almost Dry album. This is the same year that they were celebrating 20 years of the release of Lord Willin'. So there was a lot of Clipse talk, a lot of energy and just excitement to talk about what that album meant to people. But to see Malice coming back outside at the same time was like, okay, cool. This might actually happen. You know, they were reunited for performances, including at Something in the Water that year. You know, watching interviews, it just kind of felt like Pusha was publicly manifesting that he was going to get his brother to come out and they were going to do a reunion album. And as of 2024, it's official. It's happening. To push the excitement even further, we got to hear the songs at two of Pharrell's Louis Vuitton fashion shows. So, you know, just the fact that we heard one of them even before the announcement of the album was out. That's the one where there was some issues, I guess, not issues, but some maybe slight subliminals or jabs at Jim Jones, a beef that never kind of materialized, which I'm kind of glad it didn't. But hearing the song at the first Louis Vuitton show, they confirmed the album. I think we heard another song at another Louis Vuitton show, the song that has John Legend on it. August, Pusha says the album's done. They're just waiting on a feature, which, you know, being very, very kind of mysterious about who that feature is, you can only guess and think that it's either, to me, it's two people. If you can't mention it, it's either Hove or Kendrick. Either one of those, I think, especially this year, at this point, you know, I think it'd be hard to argue which one of those features would make a bigger splash or have a bigger reception or reaction. Like, Hove hasn't really done anything since, I guess, Hove did, right? Maybe. But Kendrick is on fire. So if this album comes out and it's got a Kendrick verse on it, on top of the fact that Kendrick is wrapping up beef, he's not even wrapping it up. The beef is just lingering because he's just doing whatever he wants. I'm not going to go on a rant about Drake and Kanye, and not Kanye, about Drake and Kendrick and Pusha beef, but like Jay-Z would be a big deal too. So I don't know. Either one of those, if that's the final feature, I heard that it's done. Would love it to be either one of those guys. That'd be great. But as of now, December 9th, 2024, we got no album. And they kept saying it was going to come before the end of the year. The end of the year is in a few weeks, bro. It's like, what's the holdup, right? I feel like I don't think that we're going to get it in this year just because releasing stuff at the end of the year, there's so much stuff going on in the holidays. But maybe that doesn't matter, right? Like Tyler, we talk about on the show all the time, and the genius of his rollout with Chromacopia. He said it's coming and it was out and people loved it. So maybe they'll do the same. But I think they're probably, to do it justice, a little bit more of a rollout, bigger, push, doing it at a time where they'll be able to have more eyeballs on it. I think that would probably do them well, and maybe save it for the first of the year. I don't know. Either way, I'm excited about it. Can't wait for it. It's time. Let's get this Clipse album popping. So hopefully we get it soon. Hopefully you learned, or I don't know, maybe you didn't learn anything, but hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed just listening to me talk, kind of random. I got to get used to seeing myself and hearing myself and being the only person on camera. But shout out to the Clipse, shout out to Pusha and Malice. Really excited about the album. Go listen to Til the Casket Drop and let us know your thoughts. Do you disagree or do you agree with the criticism about this album? Or do you love it? Or do you agree with Pusha and you hate it? Either way, I think it's a testament to the reaction that I got on Instagram yesterday, that the people, especially in our community, who love the Clipse, who love the Neptunes, they still appreciate and rock with this album, even if it may not have gotten the critical acclaim or the fanfare that some of their other work has done. But ultimately, if you're a fan of the Clipse, you're a fan of Neptunes, like, you can appreciate it, some of it, even if not all of it. So appreciate y'all listening. Maybe talk to you again before the holidays. If not, hope y'all have a happy holiday, happy new year, everything, all that. Appreciate y'all listening and supporting us. Catch you next Neptune Sunday. Peace and love.